Hello, everyone, and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of the Red Hat Summit Ansible Fest here at the Boston Convention Center. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside my co-host and analyst, Rob Strechay. Rob, day 3, one of my favorite topics, something we talk a lot about here, is the changing role of the CIO.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, again, it's one of these things that it is definitely a interesting time for CIOs with all the technology changes and the rapid advancement of things like AI.
Absolutely. So there is no one better to talk about that than Marco Bill, Senior Vice President and the CIO of Red Hat. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Marco.
Thanks for having me.
So you are the CIO now, but you've been with Red Hat for many, many years in different leadership positions. How do you think about your mission now as the CIO and in broad brush strokes, how you see your role?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I got kind of snookered into this role, but being like you say, like almost 2 decades at Red Hat, this is like, it feels like home or feels like your family, and so it's kind of like, yeah, we got a few things to clean up and get ready for the next evolution. I always in my career looked at independent role at Red Hat. Hey, we got to prepare for the next big, like it was 100 million, a billion, and now I think we're looking at, hey, how do we do 10 billion, 20 billion? Just like, what's the scale we need? And so I inherit actually a really good team, but we got to kind of prepare for that. You mentioned AI. You mentioned, hey, there's a lot of transformation we're all doing. Red Hat also, we accumulated a lot of technical debt, like every other company, right? And so you gotta, I think Matt was saying on the stage, you live in this world and you should go there. And it's kind of like, that's what I live. What the vision that I have, or my motivation for this role is, we gotta really prepare that we are getting into this next world, right? As in, Red Hat wants to be a leader in the AI space, so we gotta internally also enable it, but then also lead how we do this, that we can show to customers, this is what we got to do.
Yeah, I guess that's a great segue into prioritization. And I was in IT a long time ago. I ran data centers for a financial services company. And when you looked at it, prioritization, to your point, there's tech debt, there's, we have upgrades, we have a whole bunch of number of things. Clouds kind of changed that as well. And so has, a cloud operating model, which is kind of where a lot of Red Hat for even on-prem and the cloud is. How do you see the prioritization, especially with how AI is going to be implemented, how you need to meet the company's desire for AI to help them go faster, as well as how it's helping IT internally as well?
Yeah. I think let me start with priorities, right? Because I think that's really important to really not get lost in, hey, we got to do. We have a very good hybrid cloud strategy. Most of it is actually in the cloud that we operate. There's some that we're still on premise, but really like that part, I'm really super happy, and this been done well. The priority is really, I think, on 3 areas. One is data. Because you can't do AI well if your data is not good, right? And so we started even my previous role is like, how do we redo data, right? How we look at different things, how do we look at it digital? But that's one priority. The second priority is AI. And AI is different. There's a element of, we got to enable the engineering team that they have like the environments that they can play with. They can either play or build the products, right? So we have model as a service that they can choose every model that's approved. We make sure data that's behind it is legally also approved and compliant. But that's kind of what we do for engineering. And then there's a lot of areas that we look at productivity gains, be it for IT, but I think I actually look at more for the company, right? And that's specific Red Hat on Red Hat, like, how do we use our stuff to implement? To give you a simple example, creating RFPs. So you get from a company, hey, this is a request for proposal. What's your sustainability approach? It's a lot is just like templates, move over. And so having AI for that is perfect, right? And you still have obviously an associate looking over it, but those are like real productivity gains, be it, as I said, for sales in this case, for IT, in other cases like service desk, how you actually speed that up. Those are specific AI use cases to increase productivity. And then we have a big one that we actually opened up the whole population to actually Gemini, right? As in we use Google Mail, we can be open about that, and to actually enable for 20,000 employees Gemini and experiment with safe data, right? It's a safe space. And the feedback on that is, again, it's productivity gain from every role, but also like if you're on a sales role, if you're in a more finance role, it's not just for the engineers because AI got to help everybody. It's not just an engineering tool. So that's kind of the three-pronged approach we're doing. And I think we see actually good results and also acceptance of AI. It's not just technology. It's also like, oh yeah, this actually really helps my work, right? So first priority data, second AI, and the third is really business transformation. So we started a big business transformation for sales like 2 or 3 years ago. We're finishing that to make the whole flow more efficient. And in there, we will augment it with certain AI capabilities. There's other transformations we do, but those are the priorities that I'm looking at.
So this is Red Hat, this is open source, this is open innovation. How does that philosophy shape your approach, both to leadership and also to the internal transformations that you're helping lead at this company?
That's a really good question. And I wish I could tell you, hey, in an open world, we let innovation happen everywhere. Everybody can do whatever they want. That was in the early days of Red Hat. I think we got to be much more structured these days. If you look at sales transformation, to actually prepare for the next big wave, we had to standardize a lot, right? And so it's not like the open innovation, everybody can do it. It's like in certain areas I would say it's not top down, but it's more like bring your requirements, we will collect them, but we will build a standardized environment with the sales team. In certain areas, it's definitely more the open approach, bring your feedback, we can try it this way. That's why also opening Gemini and try it, see what works for you, let us know what use case works well. I think that's the beauty of Red Hat is, yes, it's an open culture. So as a leader, you got to be open that people will be happy or not happy, right?
They'll tell you.
Yeah, they will tell you, right? And you will know about it, right? Which is, to be honest, is beautiful, right? It's really something that sometimes you get annoyed about it, but it's literally a gift that you know, hey, there is no like hierarchy, etc. But from a leadership perspective, is like we still got to lead this company for especially financial. We have auditors, we have a mothership that looks at us pretty closely, right? And so some stuff gotta be very solid, and certain areas you can experiment, right? And I think that's the beauty of it. But,
and so you brought up a couple of different use cases that you see with AI and things like that. And one of the ones that comes to mind for me is really customer portals and customer service, customer success. How have you really looked at helping in that area? Because I think that's where kind of your job actually meets the customer versus, because you're not doing the products, you're not building RHEL, but you're helping them.
No, it's, I think the use case of how you help support is, and support can be external. I used to run support. I built basically Red Hat support in my previous roles, and we always experimented with AI. We didn't call it AI, it was ML, but I think now you have capabilities to do it better. And I think it's really important, again, also internal, right? Internal tech support is with me, right? But it's important to look at it in the right way. As in, you want to help the customer, but you don't want to deflect the customer, right? I always hated it. And again, internal, external, you can't tell a customer, help yourself, good luck to you. That's the business model with Red Hat, doesn't work. I actually think no company should do that, right? You should actually really be careful about engage, but it helps you internally as well, right? As in, I'll give you a good example. If you have a critical support issue going around the world, again, internal, external, you have a shift that's, in our case, is in Australia, and then they hand it over to India, and then India hands it over to Europe. Those transitions have been always super painful, right? Because the guy that comes on, the guy or the lady that comes on helping might not know what's exactly the context. And then you have the support case you got to read through is hard. now you have summarization in. So you're the new agent, a new tech support guy, you come out, you read the summary, oh, this information has already been requested, and the customer doesn't get, oh, send me this information, send me this information. That's a simple thing, and it's really powerful, right? And those are the use cases I really like. Also, like we're announcing this Ask Red Hat, that you basically can ask questions. It's not deflection, it's right, how do you actually help yourself or augment the help you need? You're also seeing like a lot of the AI built into the product. It's that help that you need. But I think those are really good use cases, but I don't want it to be this is how we save costs and the customer can, like has a bad experience. Is like, how do you actually make it better?
So tell our viewers a little bit more about Red Hat on Red Hat, how it works and how your employees are using it to get better, faster answers and be able to solve problems more quickly.
Yeah, so it's basically, we have so much information collected over like, let's say, last 2 decades. Basically, and before it was always, we had a knowledge base, very good knowledge base, that is in a process that you always update the knowledge base. And now you have a capability that you can ask this with a chatbot, basically. You can ask the knowledge base, you can ask the documentation. I think that's a big change. And be it internal, external, right? You can ask, hey, how does this work, right? And for a support tech to actually getting a bit smarter immediately, right? I've done this in my early career. I was a support agent. You get the phone, at that time it was still phone calls, I'm aging myself. But you would like, you have this problem, and you wonder, like, what are you talking? And you obviously can't say that, right? So you are searching at the same time. I think now it's very few phone calls these days, but it's the same way, and you actually don't need to have an agent in between as well in some cases now. I think that's the areas that we help with those approaches, right? And it changes every week, right? This is like something that we will learn a lot, right? I think documentation is a big change as well, as in, I'm sure we still have a lot of viewers that basically, when RHEL 10 comes out, you read the installation manual, good old style, that's how many of us did it. I don't know if that's still like a lot of people doing it versus how do I do this, and can ask that question, you get an instant response, versus searching on the intranet and you get like, oh no, doesn't apply to this version, etc. I think we're getting a bit more precise, and it's not just search, it's real help.
So I think just building off the Red Hat on Red Hat, I think the viewers would really be interested in understanding what your stack looks like.
Yep.
Under there, and what is that, which Red Hat stack, models, things of that nature that you're using to support something like Ask Red Hat.
Yeah, I think the stack is basically OpenShift AI and basically our standard stack that we're using. The models, I think we're switching quite a bit to see which model works better and what's more ideal. So there is obviously our favorite models, be it just blanking into Granite.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of experimentation also on other models. Hey, this might work better. And I think that's where we all see like, hey, you got to experiment more, right? And we do internally, not just on the support side. There's also a whole flow that we want to do a intranet based on MCP. There's a lot of experimentation, some with our products and some actually also with IBM products that we're looking at how can we use that, right? I think this is important right now not to get stuck on, hey, this is just a stack. Obviously, we use our products wherever we can, right? Doesn't be it in this AI space, but also running our infrastructure. Ansible is everywhere, right? As in the automation. I think that's an area I'm pretty proud and would show to every customer, hey, that part we've done. And it's good if you get into this role and that part is already cleaned up, so you don't have to worry about infrastructure or cybersecurity as well.
Yeah, I was going to say in security, we just had Vincent on around the product security aspect of it. Security has to be a big concern. I mean, being an open source producing company, you have repositories, not just out in the public Gits, but internally when people are working through things. That has to be top of mind as well.
Yeah. So the CISO is in my team, and basically they work closely, obviously not just with IT, but also with legal, etc. But yeah, it's I think we have there's a lot of, I would say, interest from companies or like and maybe not companies, from like third parties to actually hack into Red Hat. But yeah, I'm like, touch wood, but we have a good team. They're monitoring a lot of inputs as in what's happening. Like Vincent does on the product side, we have a very similar team that's very security minded people that look at that very, very closely. Yeah. But it's one of my big concerns, be it security, be it areas also on data integrity, is kind of like data leaks, etc. What do we do? Is kind of there's a lot of things. Also being compliant, right, with whatever be it the IBM compliance, but also with regulatory compliance is a real. That's like back to your comment as an open source company. We do have to adhere, be it the law or be regulations.
Exactly. Well, Marco, a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Rob Strechay. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of the Red Hat Summit Ansible Fest. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.